HR tip, Brooke tip, TikTok tip, whatever you want to call it. It's crazy. Yesterday, I went to go meet one of my son's friends in my neighborhood. My rule is my kids cannot go inside anybody's house until I have physically met parents, phone numbers, addresses, all of that. Granted, it's just right across the street, but we don't really talk to our neighbors. We're in a pretty much all white town, all white neighborhood. It's like 3 black families here, and I just kind of stay out of the way. So I was talking to this lady, and she was really, really nice. Husband's really, really nice. And we were talking about the type of work we do and pretty much why we do it or whatever. And I was telling her how I now work. Well, I'm not working right now. I'm still looking for work. But my last few years of work has been in human resources. She's like, oh my God, everybody else, we hate HR. We hate it. I was like, I was the same way. I didn't hate HR, but I was scared of HR. I was terrified. Because I feel like anytime they reach out to you, you're just assuming it's bad news. They're not going to reach out to you for good news. It's usually something bad. But I get this question in my interviews a lot. Why did you decide to want to work in HR? All the jobs that I've done in my career were like call center, customer service type stuff. Answering phones, email, stuff like that. And I remember some of the jobs that I did, people were scared to speak up. Like if there was any issues with management, co-workers, people would let just stuff ride. And they wouldn't say, like, what was happening. And I'm like, why? Like, how are they going to know to fix a situation if you guys are not saying anything? I'm not afraid. I would tell on a supervisor in a heartbeat. Most people are afraid of fear retaliation. I noticed that a lot of people stay in positions because of they stay scared of change. I used to work for a company, and it was a dialysis company, one of the biggest dialysis company around. So it's just a few of them. And I worked in a call center environment. My team was pretty cool. My supervisor, when we finally got one, she was super dope. But I remember how it became toxic. Like people say, how do you avoid working for a toxic work environment? You really can't. Some things just happen. I always advise people when I'm talking to them, if you are in a toxic work environment, get out of there. Seriously, because it's like, I was working for a job, COVID hit, we all went remote. And it still got toxic. I'm like, how is it toxic working from home? I remember I would clock in on my computer. Let me just move my phone here. I would clock in on my computer, and I was having chest pains. Like, I was having a lot of chest pains. That's when I realized that was really my time to go, because I would be clocking in. My kids were still in e-learning, and my chest would cave in. When we were working in the office, I don't know why call centers are always cold for those who worked in there. Ice cold. And a lot of us who are anemic can't really, for me, I can only speak for me. My anemia is me being in super cold conditions. I will pass out. I've never had to pass out, but I felt myself getting there. And they would say, well, dress appropriately. Like, we're not walking around in hoochie coochie clothes and half naked attire. We will be dressed up. I remember I took a picture, and I'm so mad I deleted it, of a girl who was working. I walked past her desk to get to mine. She had a hat and a cover, blankets, taking phone calls. And I was like, so y'all still not gonna give us no heat? So the person who was in charge of the heat was like, oh, it's $10,000 and I'm not going to do that. We're like, okay, well, can we have heaters? Then we couldn't have heaters. We couldn't have fans. They would not turn the heat on if our life was on the line. Like, we will beg for heat. And the vice president would always be saying, like, no, $10,000. Then we used to get gifts for Christmas. They stopped that. We used to get the last thing I got was a little tiny little crock pot, and I was like, man. So it was just that small stuff. They was being so picky about everybody using grammar and everybody the time they were on a call, which is common sense. I also learned that a lot of even adults don't know grammar. I'm still learning, like in my HR job. I'm still learning about that. So download Grammarly. That'll help you with your grammar. It teaches me more and more. So I had to say that, about to be 40, but yeah. So back to my point. So I feel like, and I know right now this job market is so crappy right now. It's so competitive. Start looking for work elsewhere. If you feel like this job is kicking your butt mentally to the point where, and for me, it was kicking my butt mentally, and I started to take it out on my household. And I feel like if you start, that's when you really should know. Meaning, like, my kids would be coming to talk to me. I'm like, oh, shut up, because I just didn't want to hear it, because my work from 9 to 6, which is a worst schedule. I didn't really have time to do anything, go anywhere. I couldn't do nothing because everything starts to close 7, 8, 9 o'clock. And then before we were remotely, it would take me 30 minutes to get home. Never wanted to cook, never wanted to clean, didn't care about the kids' day, didn't want to hear nothing they had to say because I was irritated. Every day I came home, it was just, then when we went remote, it got worse because they were really hounding us. Like we could barely take a break to go use the bathroom, to go get something to eat, to go tend to our kids. And it was like, wait, your background's loud. Are you an idiot? They're in e-learning. My apartment at that time was this big. You know, it was just like, it was they had no compassion for our situation. It was just like, they didn't care that our kids were at home. We still had to make sure we was on the phone. It was just like, we're not in the office anymore. So you should not be expecting perfection knowing that our children is right there in the next room. So I just came on here to tell you a little bit about my background and why I decided to be HR. I just decided to be a voice to the voiceless, or for the people who were afraid of speaking up and telling issues. And I remember I told one girl, she's like, oh, I don't really want to say about a situation. And I said, well, you can submit it anonymously. And I was like, you're having these issues, but how are we supposed to help you if you don't say anything? You got to speak up. Even if it is your boss, speak up and say something and leave. If it's kicking your butt mentally, get up out of there. I was telling one supervisor, I don't care how much money I make. If it's attacking my mental health, if it's making me go home and be a grouchy then I don't want it. I don't care. I want to be able to enjoy the fruits of my labor. And I don't want to be in a situation where I'm making all this kind of money and I can't take vacations. I can't enjoy family time. I'm always on call. I'm never present in my home. I had another HR job where I was working remotely and still didn't have a work-life balance. Ain't that crazy? Because my phone was always ringing. My email was always. And I was like, oh my God, how I don't have a work-life balance and I work from home. So my new position, I was so happy that this new company was like work-life balance. When you're on your break, leave the house. Go get you something to eat. Go to Starbucks, McDonald's. Take your dog for a walk. Play with your cat, whatever. They will always encourage us to leave our laptop. So find a company that encourages that cares about you as a person. Find a company where you can make a lot of money and still have your sanity. You know, I feel like no job should be hard. Every job I feel like should just be easy, breezy, beautiful. And if you feel like this job is, like, if you feel like your chest is caving in when you walk in, you got $50 million in gray hairs, start looking for a job elsewhere. Give your 2 weeks notice. Commit to those 2 weeks and start finding you something else. Start interviewing for other jobs and find a job that cares about you. You make good money. You have a voice. You're heard. You're appreciated. And then go from there. I don't know what that beeping sound was because I have a bunch of electronics around me. But enjoy your Wednesday, and my kids got an early release for school today. So pray my strength in the Lord.